Glasses. I need glasses because I'm old and blind. Anyways, how are you, everybody? It's Taylor, Cranky Comic Book Chat. It's October 3rd, 2023, and I read some stuff digitally. We're going to get into that. I read some stuff physically. We're going to get into that. However, first things first, Comics Curing Cancer, link down below. Go check it out. It's happening in October. Great cause. And CBC Awards. Go check it out. Link down below. Vote for your favorite YouTubers. And a 1,000-follower giveaway. You can find it on my channel. Go hunt around. It's not happening until October 12th-ish, so go enter and win some shit. All right, let's get into it. Worst to best. I'm going to do this little so I remember to put things up. The worst book I read this week was a digital book. It came out last month, and that's kind of how this works. I now have a subscription to DC Universe Unlimited, thanks to some friends of mine for a birthday gift, which happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm still figuring out how I'm going to do the reviews, what I'm going to review, and I'm just testing this out, so we will see how it goes. This might not be the most ideal, but it is what it is, and I'm going to try it. So the worst thing I read this week, today, whatever, was Blue Beetle #1. I can't even remember who created it. I don't really care. It was such a forgettable first issue that it did nothing for me. It came out, like I said, last month physically, and digitally it came out this month. I like the old Ted Kord goofiness of the Blue Beetle, and Jaime Reyes I've never really gotten into, never really read much of. And this is a #1. It's supposed to be a jumping on point, and I just didn't jump on. I just didn't care. It's aimed at a younger age group, so there is some of that. You can definitely tell. But even still, I think younger age books can still be very well written and still be very entertaining for an older audience. Hence all the old-ass people reading that stupid TERFs book, what's it called? Harry Potter and the Rings of Fire, whatever. But that's aside. Anyways, yeah, it just didn't do much for me, and I really didn't care for it. So the digital ones are probably going to be a quicker review because the problem with reading digitally is, it happens even faster for me than it does reading physical books, and I'm a pretty fast physical reader, but you just flip through these pages and you're like, oh, okay, I'm done. And I didn't read super critically. I read to try and figure out if I enjoyed it, and I didn't. So there's that. The next book I also read, which is another one digitally, was Birds of Prey, #1. It was all right. It's the forming of the team, and I'll put another so you can see the cover. Whatever, you'll figure it out. It came out last month, same as the other one. It came out digitally today, I think, and it's fine. It's Kelly Thompson writing, and it's like the forming of the new Birds of Prey team, and it explains the mission. That's it. That's all it is. There's nothing really else to it. It tries to be funny. The art kind of reminds me of Chris Paluto, I think is the name of it. Kind of a sketchy kind of artist. I can't even remember who it is. The art was The whole book was just kind of It really didn't strike me very well. And there's just, yeah, I even digitally, I don't care to keep reading these issues. I get they're part of a subscription package. I can read as much as I want to, but my time is limited. Even as fast as I read, and even as fast as I kind of go burn through these things, it's just not worth it. I'm going to test out the waters, try some stuff, and see what works, and see what I enjoy reading. And I didn't really enjoy it, so I'm not going to keep up with it. So there's that one. Next, let me just check my notes real quick. This is my super professional way of doing this. I don't have notes. I just have an iPad sitting right here, which is all the digital stuff, and now it's not cooperating the way I want. Yeah, okay, next, we're going to go into a physical book. See, look, I'm still ranking things worst to best. Kind of. We'll see if this works, and we'll see. It might just be too clunky, and I might just have to do some things a bit differently, but whatever. I bought this because I'm not immune to the spec bullshit, and I keep trying, and I'm like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Star Wars, it'll be entertaining. I swear, at some point, Charles Soule knew how to write an entertaining book. At some point. I vaguely remembered. Couldn't tell you what it was, but I know at some point in his past, I know I read something of his, and I wasn't bored to goddamn tears. This is not that book. It's a cool cover, it's Yoda. But, if you like the parts of, all the Phantom Menace where they're just sitting around talking about how the threats come in and all that shit, this is the book for you. Because 98% of this book is just dialogue-y, time jumping about how imminent threats are coming and how something was destroyed and like the future is bad and like we have to do stuff, we have to train, and we just have to talk a lot. It's almost all dialogue. There is a bit of action towards the end, but that even that action, you're like, it's kind of about as predictable as you can get. It mostly happens off panel and like well, no, I guess it is a 2-page spread. I was gonna like knock it, but it's a fucking boring 2-page spread. And this whole book is just goddamn dull. And that's my problem with a lot of these Star Wars books. I know Darth Vader's supposed to be great, and I know Dr. Aphra apparently got entertaining at some point, according to some friends who I trust. But I don't have the unlimited subscription to that, and if I did, I'd just be reading all the Marvel shit digitally, because there's very few Marvel books I really feel the need to actually own, but I just have it physically, and so maybe I should just get the digital and just do all digital reviews. Just embrace the future. I could replace myself with an AI, and then an AI tailor could just be cranky and bitch about shit. I wouldn't have to even make these videos. I could just sit around in my underwear and watch cartoons. That's actually not a bad idea. Anyways, this might be lower on the list. No, I thought this is about tied with Birds of Prey in dullness. Even though that one actually might be better now that I think about it, because this one is just so fucking boring. It reminded me in the worst way of that part of the parts of the trilogy where everyone's just sitting around talking. Like it's just so. And I understand. Comics that are about political things can be entertaining, and about disagreements, and about dialogue can be entertaining. This is not that. This is just dull. All right, enough of that rant. Next. Oh, I also read. I should probably go into full reviews, but I read it a couple days ago, and I read the Gotham War Part 1. I didn't screenshot it or anything, but it ties into this, which is the one of the DC physical books I am picking up, and I probably will still pick up. Batman number 138. If you're just reading the core Batman title, you're probably going to be lost, because Gotham War starts in Gotham War, I think, number 1. Then I think it either goes to Catwoman, and then there's a Red Hood special. And so I did not read either of those. I don't think they're on here yet. So I think by here I mean the iPad. I don't think they're digital yet. And so I read Part 1, and this I think is Part 4. Yes, it's Part 4 of the Gotham War. I have a basic idea of what's going on, and just to spoil it a little, just so like if you know what's up, Catwoman has sort of taken all these underlings under her belt, and under these evil thugs, the hirelings of all the bad guys, and trained them to like rob from the rich, and that's the start of the war. Batman is not happy about it, because Batman's not really himself. If you've been reading Batman, he sort of is, he sort of isn't. It's Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez in the art. I like Jimenez's art for the most part through this one, although it does get kind of confusing because you have multiple Robins and you have Nightwing and you have some action that gets kind of frenetic, but like, and where you're just kind of confused as to who is what. But that said, he's paying homage to Frank Miller in some places. He's got some cool art, and this is, I think, the best part, issue, run, thus story arc. That's the word I'm looking for. 2 words, Jesus Christ, of Zdarsky's run on Batman so far. It's Batman to his like fascist, most like all criminals must die extreme, and there's a reason for it that Batman went into place because he's Batman, and then the rest of the city's trying to cope with it. And like the good old socialist Canadian that Zdarsky is, you can tell he's got a side in the fight. I tend to agree with Zdarsky's side on things, but like I think he's trying to do his best to be at least a little balanced in the storytelling. It's not really working. That part's not working, but I find it entertaining, and I do think it's entertaining to see Batman push to like the extreme Batman with 3 X's, XXX, and Zur-En-Arrh. If you've been reading any of the past Batman, there's Zur-En-Arrh in here. If you don't know who that is, don't worry about it. This is an awful jumping on point. God awful. I think what's going to happen with this, and I could be wrong, that this is going to end up leading to a reset for the Bat Fam, the Bativerse, the Batawangs, all that. It's going to just kind of reset things. I like this book, but like if you like, what it does not do well is just stand on its own without the other tie-ins, and it doesn't really. Other than this cover blurb, if you pick this up, you would not didn't read this little bottom corner. Let's say you grabbed it like that, you'd be kind of lost. So take it for what it's worth. I will still pick this one up physically because I do like Batman. I mean, and I like what Zdarsky's generally doing. Not my necessarily favorite thing, but I like them better than Tiny Onion and some of the others that have been on the title lately. And I like Jorge Jimenez's art. The coloring is weirdly kind of bright for the storytelling. Not bad. I mean, that's just a nitpick. I mean, it's like not even always the case. But Batman 138, decent. And then we probably have another digital one. Digital. And I read a few issues of this. This is Justice Society of America. It's been delayed for goddamn ever. There's a gold one that came out, and I read issues 4, 5, and 6 of it this over the past few days. And 6 just came out today. It's Jeff Johns writing. 6 has a different artist who I don't really love, is Santucci. And 6 is the start of sort of a new arc. There's a Huntress is trapped in, escaped in time and trying to save the Justice Society from somebody who's going through time and killing them all. It wants to destroy everybody. That's the basic setup, the entire series. Sorry for the mild spoilers. And then it gets resolved after issue 5. The resolution is pretty weak. It's like pretty anticlimactic. And that's some of my problem with Jeff Johns' writing. He's an entertaining writer. He actually has okay mastery of some of the characters. And I like what he did with Huntress. I like what he's doing with the Justice Society. And I really like Janen's art on the first 5 issues. But the wrap up to it and that issue itself, issue 5, just kind of limp, very limp. And as far as the solution goes, what it was an excuse to do is set up a new status quo for the Justice League, not status quo, a new way forward and a new generation of justices, leaguers and socialites, Justice Socialites of America, yeah. And that starts in issue number 6 with the new arc. With Santucci on the interiors, I think Janet just couldn't keep up, and so the book has been delayed for months and months and months. And then Night Terrors came along, and then they now they're kind of trying to start it back up and get it on schedule. And it's meh as far as that goes. It's an entertaining story. As far as I would just maybe read it all collected. I think issues 1 through 3 came out in a collection today. That's and we're only on issue 6. So you could probably pick that up and get a good idea of what I was talking about for the spoiler bit a few minutes ago. But maybe wait for a bigger trade or just read it digitally. Get to DC Universe Unlimited and join me on this adventure of not owning physical books. It's like not owning physical underwear, just digital. Digital, people, it's the way to go. All right, and then we're back to physical. Everything else is physical from here on out. Physical. I have other stuff I'll talk about in a different video. I read Human Target. And I'm going to do that separately because I read all 12 issues of that. And and I've just grabbed something else I'll talk about at the end. But next we have The Sacrificers. Dun, dun, dun. Issue number 3. This is Rick Remender and Max Femera in grand old fantasy in a new world where there's gods and people of power and they're in power and they're evil and they're forces of nature or they're whatever. So far above things that they don't relate to the common people. And then there's the common people, which are a bunch of mostly animal-headed animal species. There's a beluga whale or a killer whale and a blue bird and a bunch of others. I've not seen any actual true human sort of peasants in here. And then everyone, I guess annually or every so often, the lower class people have to choose a kid to get sacrificed. And that's the premise of the series. And this issue itself sort of, you sort of learn more about the gods and their revelous nature and their partying ways and their sort of uncaring godliness and their just, infatuation with each other, petty god politics. And then you learn more about the other side of things and the kids and the sacrifices and without spoiling things, you get some more details on that end of things. It's an enjoyable book. It's another one where probably trade waiting is going to make more sense because Remender tends to write these sort of dense stories where we're only 3 issues in and it has been on a regular schedule, but I have kind of forgotten some of the details of issues 1 and 2 and I'm going to set this aside and probably reread it when we get to the end of the arc and just so I can have a better idea of what's going on, and you just forget some of the details, and I think that's part of the problem with monthly comics in general. Like the nature of them, they're serial, and like it's a hard balance, I think, for writers and artists to like come up with something memorable enough to keep you going every month. Not so dense that you're going to forget the shit that happened, but not so light and fluffy and airy, and not so telling such a long-term story that you're not interested in the monthlies. So like they're relying on you to pay $4 or $5 a month to keep this shit going. But like a lot of them aren't great at writing for the 4 or 5 things a month. I don't think Remender's bad at it, but I think it's just kind of the nature of the beast right now, especially because everything's so damn expensive. Like comics are getting more expensive, life's getting more expensive. That like it's tough to like justify. You know, I spent $60 today, and I cut out a lot of the DC books. I'll show you why I spent $60 at the end, but like that's a lot of money every week, and it adds up. And I do because I enjoy it mostly, but even when I see Cranky and hate the books, I kind of enjoy like bitching about them. Otherwise, you know, well, why would I do this at all? But it's just kind of the nature of all that's all going. And I don't know, weird place to have this segue, but it is fucking what it is. All right, next we're reviewing these two at once too because I bought them today. Peacemaker 5, Peacemaker 6. Peacemaker Tries Hard. This wraps up this story, and it's Steve Pugh on the art and Kyle Starks on the writing, and this is awesome. The LCS that I've bitched about numerous times did not have issue number 5 in when it came out. They were sold out, and I got there right after they put them on the shelves because they only were like one copy because the guy's a moron. Anyways, he did reorder it, so I can't blame him for everything. So I have this, but I think it's actually a Daniel Warren Johnson cover. I'm pretty sure it is. So it's, I think it's DWJ on the cover of this one. And then I'm not sure who did the cover on this one. I don't really care. But this is the end of the arc. If you liked the Peacemaker James Gunn show, you will love these books. If not, trade it or read it digitally. Like this is it. This is done. And they're how much are they? What did I spend on these today? Oh yeah, these are $5 each. Now they're on quality paper stock. They're black label, so they're not in DC continuity. But like it's a funny version of Peacemaker. It is a lot like the show where he's got father issues. You get the Red Bee as his helper who also has father issues, and then you get Deathstroke. You get them going up against the Brain. You get a French bulldog named Bruce Wayne. You get all these elements that just are kind of ridiculous and kind of still poignant in ways because like the Peacemaker that Gunn made, and then also that like Kyle Starks is continuing that version, kind of a sad sack, a lonely kind of deep down has no friends and like insecure hero. And Kyle does a great job of like telling a funny story with that little nugget to really get you to like the character and sympathize and empathize with the character, and still making it like a joyous romp. And does a very good job of like monthly. Like Kyle really does have a good handle on like what it takes to tell a monthly story in this regard. Like you could pick them up singly if you wanted and read them like that, but since the story's already done, I'm assuming they'll collect it, and it's not going to change the world. These black label books are not in continuity, so there's not going to be a lot of like key issues to it. But if you just want a really enjoyable, fun Peacemaker story, like, and if you're missing out on like that kind of like wackiness from the James Gunn show, pick up these. They're great. Or pick it up, trade it. It's great. All right. Got two left, people. We got More Than Meets the Eye. Transformers #1. This is Skybound. This is Daniel Warren Johnson, who I did one of the covers there. Was one of my favorite authors of last year and writer-artists of last year, and did do a powerbomb, and now is taking over the reins of Transformers. I like this book a lot. It's a nostalgia bomb. It like if you grew up watching the Transformers cartoon series, especially the G1, the first one, you'll be right at home in this. It's a retelling of the Transformers beginning on Earth, and it's a little more grown up. It's got some things that happen, especially at the end. You're like, holy shit! Okay, this is not your father's Transformers, or is it? But yeah, you get some Daniel Warren DWJ-isms in here. You get a parental and a father-son relationship going in here. You get Optimus. You get the good guys. You get the bad guys. You get big old splash pages. You get honestly, this whole thing is a love letter to the first '80s cartoon. It is good. I love DWJ. I like his art. if I were to have any criticism, it's like his style and his heavy hand of inking kind of makes it hard to tell sometimes what's going on in certain panels. Like in some of the action, you're just kind of a little bit like, what? And like some of the Transformers look enough like each other that you're like, what? And it takes a minute. Now that's a nitpick. Um, it's not like a enormous criticism. It's still a really fun book. It's still very dynamic. It's still fun. It's not my favorite book of the week, but that's just because like there wasn't. I was maybe expecting a little more out of this one. I do think it's a solid setup, and I do think it's going to appeal to Transformers fans. Like I said, especially if you grew up watching the cartoon. And I'm going to keep reading this. I'm going to keep buying because I did and I liked it. But I was just expecting. I think it just had set my level of expectation a little too high on this. And while it is solid, while it is a fun read, it's on quality paper. It's well drawn, it's well written, and it's well paced. And like and the end, you're like, oh, okay, yep, all right, we're going there. Is enough to keep me going. It's just I had because Do a Power Bomb and some of the other things that Daniel Ward Johnson has written have been such up here for me. I expected this to be up here, but it's kind of here, if that makes sense. It's still a very good book. And this is actually a pretty darn good week for comics. It really is. Like, the only physical one I really bought that I really, really, really disliked was the Star Wars bullshit. And then we have, this actually is my favorite book of the week. And that's G.O.D.S. #1. Now, this is an expensive fucking book. It's $10. It's Marvel. It's floppy. You don't even get a square bound for $10 from Marvel anymore because they're guys such assholes. But it's Valerio Schiti on the art and Jonathan Hickman on the writing. And this is like Hickman to the Hickmaniest, the most Hickman you can get if you've read any of his other stuff. You get, hang on, I have to bring the computer back to life. It went to sleep on me. You get good versus evil and shenanigans and forces of nature versus the powers that be, and set up a new paradigm for Marvel. A bunch of new villains and players that nonsense names you're never going to remember, like the Centum and I think that what's the hell's the name? Is the name of the big character? Jesus, see this? That's Will. Is it Will? Hang on. Win, W-Y-N. Win is part of the powers that be, Avatar of the powers that be, and then he's got an apprentice, and then there's another character who's one of the forces of nature, and a Centum, and the names are forgettable. But the story is end of the world catastrophe and the behind the scenes machinations of this new character Win and his apprentice to prevent it from happening. And like you get the what's happening on the front lines with like Doctor Strange and all the sort of magical heroes, and you got the Black Panther and all that, and you get the sort of shenanigans and trickster-ness of this character in the background. It kind of really reminds me of John Constantine, and that's not a criticism. It just sort of like feels like it's a love letter to that. And Hickman is sort of just like, well, Marvel needs this, and he's not wrong. This character, I think, really will fit in well with Marvel. Some of the other stuff, some of the other pantheon that he's building of like good and evil and heroes, who knows if that sticks. Marvel's already got so much of that shit, and some of that Hickman's invented and or reinvented or reintroduced or whatever. Like, but when I say that's a Hickmaniest of the Hickman things, that's what he likes to do. He builds all these like whole new power structures and then adds to them and like puts those into motion and hopefully has a central cast that's entertaining. And this central cast, I liked Win and I like The Apprentice, who I don't even know has a name in here, but I'm not going to figure it out. And Valerio Schiti's art is really solid. It's there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of setup, but it's entertainingly drawn and competently drawn. The coloring is a little bit too digital-y for my liking, but almost everything Marvel does is not. And a lot of it is 9-panel grid, like it's 9-panel dialogue grid. Unlike the Star Wars one, though, this dialogue feels necessary. Now, I don't think Hickman has the best ear for dialogue. He says, like, that Win character says kiddo way too much, but it's still just a fun fucking romp. And like, I am a sucker for the trickster characters and the sort of, like the characters that seem powerless but hold all the power, or like make it all work in the end. And that's what this is setting up. That's this G.O.D.S. I don't know what's going to be ongoing. I don't know if Hickman can keep up with an ongoing. This could be like a one and done, but it's not. There's the next issue. I'm hoping the next issue is not $10 goddamn, because then I really should have just waited it. There are some first appearances in here, but I think it's like a lot of Hickman stuff. They're not real spec, because who the hell else is going to use all such jumbly, mumbly stuff that he puts into play? That's a part of the problem I think the X-Men had after he got kicked off. Like, you get all this stuff that he set in motion. Then he gets booted from the title, and everyone's trying to deal with the fall of X, and they can't really handle it. And then I got so goddamn bored I left. Apparently they're cleaning that up now, and it's getting better, but still there's 27 damn X titles. I don't give a shit. So, anyways, that's my favorite book of the week. I did buy this, and I'm going to review it separately. I don't think this was ever in print single issue, but it's a graphic novel. This is how I ended up to $60 today. Jeff Lemire, Matt Kent, and David Rubin, Cosmic Detective. So I will review this in a separate video. It's a cool looking book. I have not read any of it, but it's got some bright looking stuff. And I'm a sucker for Lemire and Kent. And I think in a collected volume, it'll be nice. So keep an eye out for that video separately. I'm not sure when it'll drop. I'm getting kind of sick of the monthly stuff a little bit. So like some of this I might start just focusing on more of this stuff. We'll see. Like it's just, I don't want reading comics to be a grind. And I got into this, I started making videos like everybody else during COVID, and it was a whole different thing. And then I eventually transitioned to these weekly reviews, because I was like, oh, it'll get me to read weekly comics and stay up to date, which it has done. But now, some of them just feel like a chore. Like, some of the bad ones feel like, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I wasting my money? And, the DC universe helps, because I can just read through it and be like, nope, not doing that. And the fact that I'm not reading everything that comes out. I'm not a reviewer that'll read 400 books, because I don't have the money and I don't have the time or the patience for it. I'm hoping to like every book that comes out, but there's still a lot of fluff that you get from, month to month and week to week. This week was a good week, but I don't know. We'll see. That's just me rambling at the end of this all. I don't know. There's not really a point to it, so I'm just going to stop and make it an awkward ending. Don't be a dick. Talk to you later.